So we were just talking about Conway Twitty. I got a story that you'll appreciate being in restoration. So it was like our first 2 months in business. And, just at the time we were like terrified because you're like, okay, I got to make sure I'm like, how do I get business? And we get a call for a hoarding cleanup. And we did a lot of hoarding at the beginning just because it was like, there's no competition.
Yeah.
So I go to do the job and we get there and it's like, not to divulge too many secrets, but the guy had some problems, some mental stuff. He was recovering alcoholic, young guy. His mom was there, and come to find out that it was Conway Twitty's grandson. So his mom was Conway Twitty's daughter.
Oh, wow.
And they were the nicest, sweetest people, and I stayed in contact with him for probably the next 2 years, just checking on him. Because we were out there for a week, and he was super nice. She was super nice, and he's doing much better now. But it was cool just because Conway Twitty is, country music royalty.
Oh, yeah.
And we were sitting there talking to his grandson and his daughter. We're just talking about all, like, growing up being Conway Twitty's daughter. It was super cool. But that's, as to what you're saying, that's Nashville.
It is Nashville. I mean, the Mandrells are in Hendersonville, too, or at least they used to be. So, but you got that area, and of course Franklin, the Williamson County area. There's a lot of people like that. So.
And you got old country now. You got all the new country too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we got a pretty decent, famous like comedians. There's a decent little pool of comedians here. Nate Bargatze.
Oh yeah, that's
Theo
right.
Vaughn. So I mean, Nashville's just got its pull, dude. You can do anything you want to do here.
Well, I mean, a lot of people once they visit here, they see. It's a good place to live, right?
Yep.
You kind of have a little bit of all the different seasons, right?
For sure.
And I still think the people are nice here compared to other areas,
Yes.
of the country. So,
dude, it's what shocked me, and it makes sense if you look at where we're at geographically. We get like the far east side of the Midwestern winters. But, I mean, the last 4 winters here have been gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we get snow, good amounts, too.
Yeah.
So it's something that kind of, to your point, goes unnoticed. And my in-laws and that side of the family are all from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and my brother, one of my brother-in-laws still lives in New York. And we were always comparing winters. In the last probably 3 or 4 winters, we've gotten more snow and had colder weather than they have.
Yeah. It's weird times.
Don't move to Nashville if you're looking for no winters because there's definitely a cold winter.
You're going to at least get that one big snap, right?
Yes.
For sure, the last 2 years we've had the negative degrees, which is not common around here. I'm 50, so I've been here quite a while. And
dude, you're a young-looking 50.
Thank you. But
Jesus
I
Christ.
turned 50 in May and grew up. I'm born and raised, like I said, up in Sumner County in White House. So,
nice.
And White House has better winters than most people because it's a little higher elevation up there. But that's not that common unless you live like out in Cookville or Crossville, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get those couple of big snaps we've had these last couple of years. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect transition because those cold snaps are great for your industry.
Oh yeah.
So let's get into it. What's your business?
So my business is Best Option Restoration of Southeast Nashville.
Okay.
So we're a franchise that started out of Denver around 7-8 years ago.
Nice.
So I was the first location in this area. There's now 2 of us. We're both on the south side. I'm the southeast, and Tucker has southwest. So.
Okay. Oh, Tucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to him the other day.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's you guys are in the same franchise.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. And when did you say you started your franchise?
So my first full month was last September.
Nice. What was the decision? What did you do before this? First off.
So I worked in the corporate world for over 20 years. My undergrad's in industrial engineering. I got my MBA back in like 2019, and my last position in the corporate world was director of operations. So,
nice.
Yeah.
What company?
Permobil. They're in Lebanon, Tennessee. It's the best company I ever worked for, and won't tell anybody that. I worked there 2 different times for over 11 years. I was their first industrial engineer, helped and set up their production facility here,
nice.
Kind of from the ground up. Got to be a part of incredible growth. Had a $9 million build out in Lebanon that we built. Nice. And then when I went back the second time, I got the expansion to that building with the product that was going in there. And I was managing the existing product line, which is, from a revenue stream standpoint, was well over $200 million a year. So
okay, nice. So you had a whole career before starting going out on your own.
Yep.
What was the straw that in your decision making process that said, all right, I love the company I'm with. I love my job, but I want to go try to do this on my own. What was that like?
So really, when I went back to get my MBA, I was a stay-at-home dad at that time. My wife had a really good job, and we had 2 little ones. So I was staying home with them and got my MBA. My intention was never to go back in the corporate world. I wanted to be an entrepreneur at that point. I was doing some consulting on the side. In fact, I consulted with a competitor, Permabil. My mentor went to work there. The former president of Permabil went to work there. So I helped them do a lot of stuff there. The only reason why I even went back to corporate world is because Permabil called me back. New management didn't know me, and that's the only company I was going to go back to. Gave me a great offer. So I went back. I lasted exactly a year, and I said, the itch is there. I can't work for somebody else. It's not the company, it's me.
Yeah.
And I told the president, it's not y'all whatsoever, it's me. I have to go do something on my own.
Yeah, and you can't ignore that.
No.
That's gonna stick around.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so you've made the decision. All right, love y'all. I gotta go. What was the process of finding where you ended up like?
That's a great question. So my intention originally was to acquire an existing small business.
Mm-hmm.
I read up on some of that. It made the most sense, but at the same time, I didn't have the want or the desire at that point to have investors. I wanted to do it on my own.
Yeah.
I had something to prove to myself, or at least what it boiled down to, and to others that don't think I can do this, right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Because it's a major risk, right? But I did all these things in my life to lead up to this point, right?
Yeah.
So this franchise just happened to pop up. I contacted them and didn't really even know anything about the restoration industry until that point. Why I ended up picking it is because it fell quite in line with what Permabil was. It's insurance-based. It's not tied to the economy, right? So the ebbs and flows of that's not going to affect your business. And the mission statement, right? Permabil was big about the client because you're helping somebody that has major disabilities. When you're in restoration, you're helping a client in a major distress situation, right? Most of us don't know what to do when we have a water damage issue. How does insurance going to work, right? All those things. So it kind of just felt natural.
Yeah.
So, and that's why, after Nick, the founder, I talked to them. They just kind of sold me on it.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're selling a need.
Yeah.
And you're helping people out.
That's right.
And oftentimes what I found in my time in restoration was, and the stats support this too, most of your customers have never dealt with this, and they never will again, just by the odds.
That's right.
And we used to say that we're involved in a life-changing event, even though we're just talking maybe your kitchen flooded.
Right.
It's still a life-changing event, something they're going to remember. So we got a lot of pressure on us to make sure that we are putting a positive spin on that as much as possible, because what I found tough in the industry was no one wants you there.
Mm-hmm.
They're glad you're there, but you're not there because you were invited out, because they're remodeling their kitchen, because they always have all this extra money laying around that they want to spend. You're there because something went really, really wrong. So how have you dealt with that in trying to help customers out, make them as happy as possible in like a pretty unhappy situation?
That's right. I think for me, it's hiring the right people to work around me. I think that's one of the key factors for me. It's something I learned a while ago is I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I hire smart people to work with and people that are trusted, right? Because they're the ones that are going to be the first people on site to go in the home. So I want somebody that I trust that can go into your home that you can trust.
Yeah.
And I feel that we're very good about handling those stress situations to kind of calm the client down, because we're the experts that can work with their insurance company to get things, to make sure things can be covered so that they're not out of pocket as much as possible, right?
Right.
Other than maybe their deductible. And so far, it's worked quite well. I mean, you never make every client happy, right? We're all different, but it's kind of the same thing as Permabil. You want to make that client happy.
Yeah.
You want to know that will refer you at some point.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So let's talk about y'all's services. What do you What's y'all's bread and butter? What do you do for customers?
So our bread and butter is mainly water mitigation and mold. We are doing fire now. With the project manager I hired, he actually owned a restoration company for over 10 years in another city. So he had all those certifications coming in here. So he's extremely valuable, opening up those other revenue streams for us. So we did our first fire job here the last month because of that. And we signed up with a TPA actually this week.
Which one?
AccuServe is the one that we're going to do right now. That's what the headquarters has gotten a deal worked out with. So we're starting there. So between that and the local marketing that we're doing. So,
nice.
Yeah.
What how many franchise locations do you guys have?
That's a great question. I can't answer that right now. I know it last
Roughly.
year. I want to say Nick sold over 30-something locations, and so I want to say we got to be around 80 now.
Nice.
Probably.
Very nice.
70 to 80, I would think.
That's incredible.
But last year, I think he pretty much doubled it. He sold so many last year, me being one of them.
Yeah.
And Tucker literally, he bought into it in February. He started February this year. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the support like from the franchise?
It's good. You know, when I started out solo to learn everything.
Yeah.
So they were great about bouncing off things that you ran into. Extremely responsive.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
And then so you started in September of last year. When did you hire? What? And then also talk to the future entrepreneur or the guy sitting in your shoes last July.
Yeah.
Where he's like, all right, I made the decision to go do this. What should I expect in the next 6 months as far as who do I hire, when do I hire, and all that stuff?
So it's a great question. In the short period of time that I've done this, I hired my PM back at the end of April, and then I hired him a lead tech in May. If I had to do it over again, I would have hired the PM immediately.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it on my own to learn everything, but it was a major struggle to do everything. So I would definitely tell somebody getting into this industry, if you can afford it, hire you somebody, at least a lead tech. I was able to afford a PM, and luckily we had already met in my B&I group at the end of last year, and we already kind of had a working relationship. And so when I was ready to hire, he was the one that I was able to land. Thank goodness.
I would actually take that a step further, and I would say if you don't have the budget to hire some help right away, then wait a little bit until you do.
Yeah.
Save some more money, because it is going to be a game changer for you, especially you sound similar to where I was when I started a restoration company. I am not a handy guy.
Yeah.
That's not me. You might be better than I am, but I also had no experience in restoration. So it was like, to your point, I was just learning it. And that comes with, obviously I could figure it out, but that comes with so much stress.
It does.
Even because you don't know what you're doing, but you're also trying to make the business survive, and you're trying to take care of your customers. You don't want to mess something up, and the only thing you think about at night is oh, fuck, I don't know how to do this thing I'm supposed to be getting paid to do, which is, in my case, was more about the company we were with not giving good enough training. But yeah, so I would say, if you, just from your stress levels, if you can afford, I agree, if you can afford to hire somebody with some experience, someone to be your right-hand man, you can get creative too, right?
Absolutely.
If you're okay with saying, hey, here's a little bit of equity that vests over time, right? To protect you, right? So maybe you say, can't afford to pay you great, but I want, 10% vested equity over the next 2 years, and you have a cliff year one where 2% of that falls off and they get it right away, and then they gain the rest over the next 2 years. So it gets you some longevity and gets them in the game, and they care about it and all that stuff. And they don't have to be a business owner, but they get equity.
That's right.
So just get creative. But the only way you can do that is network, right?
Yep.
So talk to us about, how you started getting your first business. Was it networking? What was your first kind of customer acquisition efforts?
So, most people that get into this industry, you have to use lead services, right? So most of the business in the beginning came from lead services while I was doing the networking. Yeah. Joined B&I immediately in Murfreesboro.
Nice.
And joined the chamber. But for me at this point, BNI has been the most beneficial for me.
Big time.
I love BNI for the fact it's very structured. Yeah, you have accountability to it, but you're building relationships anyway. So what does that matter about that accountability that's associated to it? You visit other chapters, get to meet those people, start networking with them. So that's really how I had started it. And really what I felt, what happened with me, and it could just be coincidence, but once I hired that PM and my second presentation I did to the group, I had my PM come with me and actually introduce himself and talk about all his experiences. That month, I got 8 referrals from BNI in my group. Go. Boom, just like that.
Added a lot of validity to you.
Yeah, and then I had been networking with another plumber in another BNI group, and he had not given us any business at that point, but he called us out of the blue saying, hey, I need a dry out. We made a mistake. He's like, what will you charge? We're like, dude, we'll do it for free. So immediately he's like, well, you got my next 5 jobs.
Nice, right? Dude.
So, but it's he and I, when we talked, the main thing all he cared about is whoever he uses as a restoration company, he knows that client's going to get taken care of. Because in the end, his name's now associated to me going into that client's house. And if we do a bad job, they're going to go back to him.
Yep.
Right. So.
Yeah, and he's got to protect his reputation.
That's
that
right.
He's built. Yeah, that's crucial, man. BNI, I'll tell you, I was in BNI for about 3 years when we had our restoration company, and it was by far the best return on any ad spend.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not expensive. Now, it is a big time commitment, but if you do it right, it does work, at least for our industry.
Yeah.
The thing, though, the secret that I did that I didn't see a lot of other people doing, it sounds like you might have figured it out too, is, and you can do this in any industry. For us, I found who our best referral partner was, which most of the time it was the PNC insurance agent in the group. And then I just went on BNI and found every chapter that had a PNC and didn't have a restoration company, emailed them, asked them if I could be their visitor. It was literally a 100% response rate.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Because they need visitors.
Yeah.
Right? And you're hey, I'll come visit.
Yeah.
Say, hey, can we knock out a one-on-one after?
Yeah.
And not only now have you given them a visitor, which they have to have, you visited another chapter, so that's more referrals, and you've probably gained a pretty good referral partner in that agent. So my advice on BNI to people who join early is like, don't just stick to your group. I mean, obviously that's your group and that's your referral source, but if you can go to another group where there's not a competitor, and talk to one of your best referral partners that's in that group, do it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, do a quarterly, we called it the BNI tour. We would just tour every one we could.
Yeah. I believe in it so much, I bought my PM a seat in the one in Smyrna. So I'm in Murfreesboro, he's in Smyrna. So
perfect, dude. At one point we were in 4.
Yeah. It just makes sense to me. Like you said, the initial investment's not much, and one job more than pays for multiple years.
Big time.
So
I think when I looked at the numbers last, and I think it was responsible for around 20 to 30% of our business, which we were doing like a little over $1 million. So you're talking like $200,000-$300,000 in business, and just from BNI, and it costs $1,000 a year.
Yep.
Now the only thing is it's kind of a cult.
It is. I love our group because we're laid back and we like to joke, but we take it seriously when we got to, right? Yeah. I mean, we're all there for the same thing. But yeah, people can say it's a cult if you're not in it, but I just think it's, for me, I'm naturally an introvert, so the marketing sales side is a struggle for me in the beginning because I came from operations, right? So I didn't have to do those things.
Yeah.
I'm like, what does a sales guy really do? Take you out to lunch, right? Just spend money.
Sales is hard as shit.
It is hard. I learned it firsthand now that I've had to do it myself, right?
Yeah, man.
So I have a much different respect for those people now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dude, so to wrap up the BNI thing, I completely agree. I mean, it is my first, when I was in restoration and I knew somebody starting restoration or whatever, I was like, get into a BNI group, first thing you do. Because nothing else is going to bring the return as quick as it can. And like, what you have at the beginning is time and no money.
Right.
And that's what BNI is.
That's right.
Give your time. You have no money. It doesn't cost much.
That's right.
Just do it and commit. Give it a year.
Yeah.
You'll see it provides.
Oh, yeah.
If it doesn't, then get out.
Yeah.
Or leave whenever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, just shop around the chapter before you join.
Yeah.
Actually, I got lucky. That's the only one I visited, and I'm like, it's perfect because they have a really good trades group, and that really helps if they get a good trades group. So.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Dude, that's exactly right. So how have you liked the industry? I mean, you're almost a year in.
Yeah.
How's business going? What's been the ups and downs?
Like I said, it was a major struggle by myself. Once I hired my project manager, things changed. The first month, of course, was still somewhat slow, but the next month, then he more than doubled what I had done by myself, and
Nice.
from a month standpoint.
Revenue-wise?
Yeah.
How?
He's just so much better at it. Well, I mean, if he's got over 10 years experience to my list,
He knows
of
what to
one,
say. He knows.
He just knows he has a better closing rate.
Oh, gotcha.
Plus, like I said, we end up getting a bunch of referrals all of a sudden once I hired him too. So it's a different level, I love working with him because he's an entrepreneur since the 17 years old. He's never actually really had to work for somebody until now. And so he has that same mindset, and we're always bouncing ideas off each other, right? And so we have so many ideas that we're wanting to do from a marketing standpoint. It's just a matter of finding places to do it and time to do it,
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's where he goes back. It's like I could have kept doing it by myself because I wasn't making any money really by myself. But I would still just be struggling.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where like, do I really want to keep doing this? And once I hired David, and he straight up just told me, he's like, I got this, boss. I got operations. And I try to go out there on site to be another labor hand. He doesn't want me there.
God, dude. Oh, that is so clutch.
I'm like, dude, I can help you. He's like, yeah, but think about it. If it roles reversed, you telling your boss what to do. I'm like, I'm not like that though. He's like, I know, but it's still a different thing.
Right.
I'm like, cool. So
he's like, go get the business.
Yeah.
That's, man. I don't want to say you got lucky because
I got lucky.
Yeah, but I mean, you managed that. You know, like I mean, if you were a douchebag, you would have said no.
True.
Right. So
Yeah.
like sure, there's some timing involved, but I think luck. If you count all that to lucky, I think it disparages the effort and the type of person you are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's your effort in that as well. So once you brought him on, how did you? I see a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of going, at the beginning it's all them. They're like, man, I got all this work, I'm blah blah blah, I'm busy, and then they hire somebody, and now they say, oh, I've got all this white space, free time. And they don't replace it with something that makes the company more productive or
Right.
brings in more money or makes it more efficient. So what did you replace your now free time with? What's your day consist of?
It's the sales and marketing side. It's been spending time, getting the TPA set up. It's more now. You're more of the strategic visionary person.
Yeah.
Right. You now have that time to do that.
Direction.
Right. And so I'm already thinking the next hire, the next vertical.
Right.
Right. And when we can do those things. So yeah, that's where my time is going to.
So what is the right now in your head? Where are you at as far as the next hire or next vertical? What you thinking?
So the next hire, I mean, actually, he and I talked about this week, maybe in August, actually. So what's funny is like I literally, when I hired him, I gave him a goal. All right, and the goal is I need $1 million for the next year. Right.
Yep.
So he's like, he knows the goal. Pretty simple. And then I said, well, I can't hire anybody until we have 3 months of this amount of revenue, right? I only took 1 month for that, and I hired, same thing with like, we have certain software that we pay for through the franchise. He recommended Xactimate, and I'm like, well, let's just wait. 2 weeks after that, I go buy it for him, and it's been the most beneficial thing that I did. Cost me a couple $1,000 and
for the year. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so that's how I kind of lead is I take everybody's opinions and I'll stew in it for a little while. And I may tell you, yeah, it's 3 months out, but then I'm coming back to you 2 weeks later and we're going to go ahead and do it now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I have to think about it. And there's always the financial side of things when you make those decisions as well. Right. And when I hired the lead tech, that was a big financial decision to make after you've already hired a PM, right? But I'm like, he needs it because his value is more being off-site, right?
Yeah.
Writing estimates, doing the invoicing. landing the jobs. And I even want him pulled back even farther. He's so valuable. I want him helping me do more marketing and sales.
Yeah.
Because we really can play off each other really well.
So is he doing some of the labor right now too?
Not really now that we have the lead tech. But he was until I hired that lead tech.
Yeah.
And the way that I'm trying to manage it is like we have the lead tech, so he doesn't have to sit there and babysit that person now. But if we need extra labor, we're using temp service.
Tim's? Oh, temp. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So there's another franchise location in one of the other states. That's all he did. He had a lot more money to invest, and he came from private equity, so he knows how to grow a company and sell.
Yep.
So he hired like a operations manager and 2 PMs, and then he hires temp labor for everything else, and that's how he's managing it. So I'm kind of trying to set up that same mindset, or trying to.
How's he bringing in business? That's what's interesting.
Well, because he came from private equity, he had a contact with a plumbing company immediately, and they were pretty good size.
Okay.
So that helped. And so, I'm sure he's spending all his time on the sales and marketing side, and I think he already hired a salesperson actually.
Nice.
So, that's my mindset. I'm always listening to others and what makes them successful, and see how I might be able to implement that with me. And every territory is different, right? The competition is different.
Yeah,
in
for sure.
Every state, every city, and Nashville area is actually really competitive.
Oh, big time, dude! It's the backyard of Surf Pro's headquarters.
Yeah, right down the road.
Yeah, so it's a tough city to compete in.
Yeah.
Okay, so sounds like what's the PM's name?
David.
David. So David's super valuable.
Oh yeah.
What's your and I don't want to scare you. What's your plans to make sure he doesn't leave?
Well, so that was a discussion on the front end, right? He owned a restoration company for over 10 years in Boston. So when he moved down here, his intent eventually is to open up his own. So that's an agreement up front. So he says he will let me know in plenty of time before he leaves. Do I want him to leave? No, and that's why I've got to figure out a game plan. Can I give him equity in the company? Because as we grow and maybe we buy another territory, right, maybe that will entice him enough to stay, and we're partners at that point.
Right.
So I've got, again, those are the visionary strategic things that I'm thinking about constantly.
Right.
Because I don't want to lose him. He's not going anywhere anytime soon because he's got another entrepreneur venture going on right now that he's building out right now in Murfreesboro. But, like, I will help him any way he can. Like, he already has all the manuals and everything for a GC license. I just have the home improvement GC license here locally.
Yep.
I want him to get the GC, and I'm like, dude, I'll pay for it. We'll do whatever we got to do. I'll pay for whatever we got to pay for, because it's so valuable to have those things.
Yep.
So any kind of training he wants or what, I'm going to pay for it, right?
Nice. I'm
doing whatever. And so that's why I think our relationship works so well. And I've told him, I trust you, dude. You make a decision. Like if it's a client that we think we don't like, that's one of my main things is we're in the business to make money. But if a client comes to us and we don't feel comfortable doing work for them, I don't want to do work for them.
Right.
Because in the end, that's not going to benefit us. And we had that discussion this week about that. I'm like, look, you don't have to ask me. If you're not getting a good feeling on this, just walk away immediately. You have my full blessing on that. You don't have to ask me. And I tell him about a lot of stuff. I'm like, dude, I trust you. I'll know if you're not doing something right. So you don't have to ask me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, trust has experience.
Yeah.
If he gets a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly right, man. Because, dude, some of these customers they can ruin you, and you didn't even do anything wrong.
That's right. And that's it's worse today than it used to be, right? Because you have the internet, you have Google, and you may not be in the wrong, but they're going to leave you a bad review. And even if you're in the right, that still doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And again, we want to make that client as happy as possible, but some of these people, you're never going to make them happy. And I'd rather walk away on the front side and never have to deal with that. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to be 100% correct on those. You're still going to run into that issue.
Yep.
But you can be risk averse and reduce that risk.
Big time, especially with people with experience and says, hey, I've seen this 100 times, and I recommend we don't do. You're like, all right, hell yeah, let's not go down this route. A couple things there. I want to just let you know that as a company on my home, we have a partnership with a temp labor company, and they're so you get some added benefits there
Okay.
with their workforce. They're amazing. So I just want to let you know that. And then the other one we just secured, just so you guys know, is a partnership with Auto Care company, to where any My Home vendor who has a fleet, they get jump the line status. So if you have, how many vans do you have?
We just have the one right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
If that thing's down, you're screwed.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm already looking at another vehicle. That's another strategic move I'm trying to make right now.
I've got 3 in the back.
I know. I looked at them.
So I also have a truck up there if you don't have a truck. So what you get as being a My Home vendor is a jump the line status with them to get your truck back on the road.
Yeah.
So just another thing we're trying to provide value to the companies that are on the platform. What else, dude? What are the things that suck about restoration?
Well, I mean, everybody talks about the insurance side of things. We were warned, don't sign up with TPAs. We'll see how TPA goes. There's the good and the bad with that. It's all in. Again, it's how your perspective of it and how you build that relationship. If you go in with a negative attitude, you're never going to have a good relationship with them. Same thing with the insurance carriers and the adjusters.
Yep.
And so my mindset, and David's is the same way. We want to meet the adjusters and build that relationship. There's always going to be times when we disagree, and there's going to be other times they agree with us, but we just need to build a good relationship with them, right? And again, it goes back to really the other thing is the certain clients.
Yeah.
Right. It's just it's
because it's not a happy situation.
It's
That's
not a
why it's
happy
so tough.
situation, but you have
And
you
it's
have
like a
people that
timing.
want to take advantage of you. They think
Yeah.
you're taking advantage of them. But I promise you, I've talked to several people. I run this business with integrity. We're not going to charge line items that we shouldn't be charging for. We're not going to overcharge. We're going to go off the exact amount pricing. But you got these clients that they know the insurance game, and they're trying to pocket insurance money.
Yes.
Right? And you're trying to do the right things, but the client, we ran into a client the other day that we're doing the recon side of it, writing up the estimate for it, and we had flooring including in that. Well, the lady knows the flooring person. She asked that person directly for the quote the estimate she gave for the flooring because she wanted to see what
your upcharge was.
Yeah. So.
Like you shouldn't get paid for managing a relationship.
That's right. And so she's taking advantage of us. And so that's a client, and we already did our water mitt side. From my perspective, I want to walk away from that.
Yeah.
We're trying to help you. I don't want to play this insurance game.
Yeah.
We're going to repair what needs to be repaired. So
Here's the thing, dude, and this gets me going because you're exactly right, and we've said it in here 1,000 times. It's like profit is only good for everybody involved.
Right.
What that homeowner doesn't seem to understand, they don't want to see you make any money. If there's more cushion for you to make money as a business, because that's how you stay in business,
right,
is what you're able to do then on that job is spend more time with her, spend more time ensuring that everything's done perfectly, take more trips out there to see her, be a little bit more forgiving when things go wrong, because you're not going to lose money on the job.
Right.
Instead, what that creates when homeowners do that is it forces businesses to try to force profit.
Yeah.
Which the only way you can do that if you have no margins is to cut corners,
right,
or be lazy about things. And then the homeowner's mad at you for doing that. And you're like, you're the one who called the flooring company to make sure I wasn't making any money on anything. Right? Like, if you want to play that game, then we'll play that game. Right? So, like, I don't understand when people do that either. And then, from the business side, what profit allows is you can then hire better people.
That's right.
You can get better equipment. You can get better training. You can do all these things. So, like, that game is an annoying one. And I think in restoration, it's unique. I think every business deals with that. But I think in restoration, it's unique because people assume you're playing with house money.
Right.
And it, for some reason, doesn't work out to be that way. It's the homeowners see the check come in, and because up to this point, you've responded in the middle of the night to an emergency.
Yep.
This is what chaps my ass about this industry. This is a true story. Christmas Eve, water main breaks. We show up. I'm there. We're there all night. We do the work, and then we do all the admin work afterwards, putting the bill together, sending to the adjuster, going back and forth, gets approved. Check goes to the homeowner, and now it's time to negotiate. And you're like, no. This
I
is the
haven't run
work
into
that's
that one
done. This is what we've already done. We're done with this. You have to now endorse the check over to us and pay us.
Yeah.
Right? This is fair.
Yeah.
We were here on Christmas Eve and
Oh,
Christmas Day. Like, what are you talking about? And then it's like they want to sit there and go line by line and be like, well, I don't remember this. I don't remember this. I don't remember this. It's like, A, this isn't even your money.
Mm-mm.
And B, you loved us when we showed up on Christmas Eve.
Yep.
You loved us throughout the whole process. You loved all of our guys because we did the job correctly.
Yeah.
Now we deserve to get paid.
That's right.
And homeowner sees a $10,000 check come across and they go, maybe I can squeeze a couple grand out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody, but there's those ones, the 10% that just I didn't have any patience for that, man. Yeah. And I got really tired of that.
Yeah.
But that's where your PM is probably going to be worth his weight in gold.
Oh yeah,
because he's dealt with that 1,000 times.
And that's the only thing that really sucks when you're getting paid, right? The insurance company, instead of writing the check to you, they write it to you and the client, or they write it to the mortgage company.
Dude,
I'm like, come on, man.
Oh my God,
that's the part of the game I don't like.
Well, and then the other part of the game that sucks is we respond to a fire. We get the adjuster out there. We do the estimate together. We're like, all right, here it is. This is what we're going to do. Approved, go. We start working. We finish work. We send the bill. They approve half of it.
Yeah.
And then the homeowner's like, well, I'm sorry. And I'm like, what are you sorry to me for? You need to go to your insurance company because we have to get paid.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to protect your reputation.
Yep.
You also don't want to be a dick.
Yeah.
Right? This person had their house burned down.
Yep.
So you don't want to treat them poorly, but you're also can't go out of business. So it's like, but these big insurance companies know.
Oh, they do.
They go, well, they're not going to come after me. We're State Farm.
Yep.
So here's 16,000 instead of 32.
Yeah.
And restoration company and homeowner, you guys can deal with the rest.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times we just ate thousands of dollars.
So
to avoid.
So you never asked the client then for the difference?
We have, but
how did that go?
Horribly.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Because they're mad, which they should be.
Yeah.
But they should be mad at the insurance company, not us. I'm like, these are our prices. These are exactly my prices. That was approved.
Yeah.
All the work's approved. We didn't start before it wasn't approved.
Yeah.
And now the insurance company wants to cut it down, and now you're mad at us because they didn't send you a big enough check. We're the only ones that get screwed here. So most of the time it was like the fight wasn't worth anything.
Right.
And we would just eat it. And I think insurance companies sometimes know that.
Yeah.
And they also bank on the mom and pops, like not having either the people or the time or the money to go after stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really disappointing. And that was frustrating for me in the industry.
It is, for sure. Luckily, I haven't had to run into that yet. I know it's going to happen at some point because we all are going to run into that. But, yeah, I mean, it's...
Maybe not, though, with your guy. Like, maybe we were making mistakes along the way that, during the process that could have easily solved that. That's the problem with not having a ton of experience, 10 plus years. So, and all it does is take 2 or 3 times of that where you're like, all right, we're going to fix this, right? So, and it wasn't all the time, but it was enough times where it stood out.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really eat $5,000, $10,000.
Oh, absolutely. Because,
that's your margin.
That's right. I mean, and I think that's why David has a very good point that we want to build those relationships with those adjusters so we minimize that chance of that happening. It's still going to happen. I know somebody else who did a job, and the adjuster walked through the job with them. They agreed on all the work, and then when the invoice is turned in, they still want to reduce it.
Big time. That's exactly what happened, dude. Like, oh my gosh, man. Oh, so annoying. But all that to be said, great industry.
Yeah.
Good industry to be in. What's your number one, knowing what you know now, thinking about the entrepreneur that was in your seat a year ago?
Yeah.
What's your number one piece of advice that you would give to that person right now?
Do as much research as you can.
In industry and company?
Yeah. And I think I did a fairly good job, but there's some things that, state to state operates differently on what are the requirements. And that's a big one.
Big one.
Know what your state requires.
Yeah.
with the franchises, it's, at least in restoration, I think that they build those partnerships with other TPAs and different things like that that are beneficial to your company. Because it's economies of scales, right? The more territories they have, they can go and negotiate things.
Right.
So I see that as a benefit.
Big time, dude.
You know, and in this industry, if you think about it too, what Servpro is really the big one that does all the TV commercials and all the marketing, right? Most restoration companies will do that.
Yeah.
So I really don't understand why other companies aren't pivoting to that, right? Because they spend a shitload of money on TV advertisement, sponsorships on race cars, right?
Yeah.
Anything.
They had a Super Bowl commercial, I think.
Yeah. So, you know, why don't other restoration companies do that?
My theory on that, dude, is like, because we did a home show one time when we were in restoration, and I was like, this doesn't really make any sense because the homeowner, so I think it was 2022, 2% of insured homes had a loss that we could work on. So water inside the home, you know, whatever. So that narrows down the market incredibly. When that loss does happen in those 2% of homes, what's the first thing the homeowner does? They probably don't go back and remember the people they met at the home show.
Right.
And then call them. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. So either they are a part of a networking group and they know somebody, or they call their insurance agent and then they refer them, or they call their insurance company and they send out an adjuster and the adjuster refers them if they haven't gotten the work done yet. So, like, I kind of shifted my sales approach and to completely B2B because it makes almost zero sense to sell to the consumer unless you're Servpro and you have, you know, a $50 million marketing budget, right? And you can spend 20 of that on a Super Bowl commercial or whatever, right? And then it makes sense because at that point, the only thing you're doing is brand awareness. Yeah. And what Servpro's done well is like what Kleenex did well, which is people just, it's almost like synonymous. Yeah. Which is a tough thing to compete against.
It is.
But we also found in like our networking, and we're B2B, so you're going direct to insurance agents, they generally want somebody local to refer. Yeah. You know, and if they don't have somebody they know and they trust, the natural response is just Servpro. Yeah. So they just say that because they want to be helpful to their client. But if they know someone local, it takes a little bit of time to establish that relationship. Yeah. But once you get it and you get it going, generally speaking, they'll go for it and give you a shot. You know, you just have to give it time. Yeah. Which is the tough part.
It is.
You know, but that's like keep your overhead low until you have like what you're doing. It's like, all right, we need 3 months of this revenue, and then I feel comfortable knowing this isn't a glitch. Yeah. And then I can hire somebody. Yeah. I can do this. I can do that. Yeah. So sales guys next.
I thought about that, and Dave and I we had that listed as maybe the next hire. But if we start, I don't know. I may hire another lead tech to fill another van.
And you keep doing the sales.
Yeah. Because we got to be responsive, right? So, you know, especially when you work with a TPA, you're supposed to respond to that in 2 hours. Yeah. Things like that. But really, to me, that's good business anyway in this industry. You need to respond quickly. Yeah. So I want to be able to do that, have that second van, rather sooner than later. Yeah. So, yeah, and then maybe a salesperson, maybe. Nice. So, yeah.
Well, dude, I really appreciate your time today. First off, thanks for giving us a shot. I think it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how restoration industry works on the platform. I think mold is probably going to be one that could be worthwhile. Water, I doubt it. Yeah. But mold is definitely one that I can see homeowners using it for. And yeah, man, I respect the hell out of the decision to go in on yourself and start this thing, and I think you're doing it the exact right way, and I'm pumped, and I can't wait to have you in next year and see where we're at and see where the goals ended up, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, brother. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.